Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 56. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being with us this Monday morning, Steelers Nation. Dave always had the joke about how, Duck didn't kill us, Steelers offense didn't kill us. Last night, they killed them.
Yeah, gloom, despair, and agony.
I want them to win just to avoid that song.
I tell you, it's about the only place you can go right now. Coming off that game. Now, obviously, people do got to understand with them playing late like this, we've only had limited opportunity to go back through this game. More less so than probably what we normally do here. So, and in doing so as quickly as I did, I didn't. My notebook's not very full. Obviously, there are some main points we want to hit on and all, but it goes back to what we say. Or what we talk about. Defense hold them to 17 to 16 points. You expect to win any ball game in the NFL, and if you don't, then you've obviously done something probably on the offensive side of the ball that prevents you from doing that and turning the football over. I thought, oh man, this is a perfect opportunity not to extend that streak to 21 consecutive games and not turning the football over. I really felt strongly that one turnover might be too many, in this game. And then you turn around and you do it 5 times, and yet you still have a chance at the end of the game, to tie it, sort of a la the game against the Browns several weeks ago. That says something about the play of your defense that you're in a game like that. But they certainly did a good job of shooting their own feet out from underneath them last night.
Yeah, 5 turnovers in the game. I would essentially consider it 6 turnovers. You include that terrible Jordan Berry punt, which I really, I think for all intents and purposes becomes a turnover. The last 2 losses, you've turned the football over 9 times. I don't care how good your defense is, and this defense is a good one. You're not going to win many games when you turn the football over that much.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you can boil these games down a lot of times to explosive plays and turnovers, and you can definitely. I mean, obviously, it goes a lot deeper than that when it comes to analysis to last night's game. But you can't turn it over 5 times. Playing how many times do teams win when they turn it over 5 times? Not many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly not whenever you have rookie quarterbacks in an offense. It's not going to be able to move the ball too well. Of course, when you turn the football over 5 times, you're not allowing your offense to move the ball well enough. And you're either two scenarios happen when you turn the football over. Either you're doing it in your territory and you're giving the opposing offense a short field, which is what happened after Trey White's second interception that led to a field goal, more points on the board, and your defense just can't defend it that well. They're going to allow points in that moment when the ball's on the 18. Or you're going to turn it over in your opponent's territory, as they did at the end of the first half, and take points off your board. And so you're getting big 6-point swings there on those 2 moments alone. The whole structure and philosophy of this team, and particularly this offense, is just don't turn the football over a lot. Let's keep the score down. Let our defense do its thing, and we'll be right there late in the game. And the last 2 times they've lost, they've not come anywhere close to accomplishing that mission.
Well, you talk about, too, you had 11 total possessions in the game, 5 actual turnovers. I'm with you. Go ahead and count the Jordan Berry one as a that lame duck punt as a turnover. So over half your possessions are turnovers. You can't. I don't care what kind of offense you have. That's incredibly hard to overcome.
Yep. Before we get into the game any further, I know we're going to talk about the inactive list here briefly. James Conner did play. He looked good. I was happy to see him back. Juju Smith-Schuster still out with that knee injury. I think the rest of the inactive list was fairly chalk. Vance McDonald still out with a concussion. Zach Gentry getting hat for the first time in weeks. We were wondering who the final guy who was going to not get the final rose, I guess, in a sense you could say. Was it going to be a running back? Was it going to be Gareth White, Trey Edmonds? But none of those guys, all 5 running backs were active. It was Isaiah Buggs being inactive, which I guess makes sense because he really wasn't playing, but I'm not sure the last time the Steelers went into a game with what would be 4 active defensive linemen. It's been a while.
Yeah, I understand it, especially when you look at. I mean, I didn't guess it. Obviously, I guessed that it probably would be Kareth White that'd be the one that'd be down because of you start going through it. Look, Trey Edmonds plays a lot on special teams. You could have gotten around. Even though you wanted to see White out there and get a handful of carries, but if you're going to have Connor back, he's going to eat into somebody's carries. And as far as the whole kick return thing, you still had probably the chance to go with something like a Johnny Holton or Deontay Johnson or something like that. I understand it. I mean, I just didn't predict it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but the Steelers no worse for wear with the defensive line. No injuries too. The other thing to mention, Tomlin said, just bumps and bruises associated.
At least we think.
Yeah, at least nothing outwardly obvious after the game that Tomlin had. He actually didn't mention the report until he was asked about it at the very end of his post-game press conference. So, 2 silver linings in this game. I'm going to start with good news, something everyone wants to hear after a loss. No major injuries, which is good. And the Steelers are still in control of their own destiny. They are still the 6th seed because the Titans lost to the Texans. So if the Steelers win out to beat the Jets and the Ravens, certainly 2 things they are capable of, more than capable of, I would say. The Steelers will be in the playoffs as the 6th seed, as you pointed out last night, Dave. The Steelers cannot be any higher than the 6th seed. Buffalo's going to have the 5 seed in a worst-case scenario for them. So Steelers are either going to be the 6th seed or they're not going to make the playoffs at all. Those are the options.
Yeah, you got to win your next game. And
Yep.
that's against the Jets next week, and it's going to be a team that's you run into another one of those kind of desperate like teams, a team that willing probably going to break out all the stops here. Obviously, you would expect to face Le'Veon Bell in this game. They haven't used him probably the way they should have most of this season. Their offensive line is a bit of a mess. Sam Darnold having some issues there as well. And look, one thing I think too, when you're talking about a Greg Williams defense on the other side, obviously we've got a lot of time to break this one down, is he's going to pick up on a lot of things that the Bills did defensively, I think, against Devlin Hodges there, and things that we're going to get into talking probably a little bit about today, and definitely by the middle of the week as well too. So he's going to come after Devlin. I'll tell you that. And the thing that kind of stuck out to me in this game Sunday night was, and I think I kind of hinted on it a few times during the last podcast, is if I'm the Bills, I'd go after Devlin Hodges quite a bit, and they did. And the Steelers really didn't have an answer for it.
No, and Hodges was very blunt after the game, saying that I think at least he, and I presume the Steelers as a team, were not expecting the Bills to blitz that much, especially on 1st and 2nd down. And I don't understand that, because you look at the week before against Baltimore, they blitzed the heck out of Lamar Jackson. They're the 11th highest blitz rate team in football overall. I don't know exactly how that translates to 1st and 2nd down. I imagine it's still relatively high. So I don't understand why this team was surprised that the Bills came out aggressive and blitz happy. It's kind of pretty clear on their tape that's what they like to do. They have 15 guys with at least 1 sack this season. That means they're sending guys from all over the defense to get pressure. Why the surprise the Steelers, I don't understand.
And sending them. How many run blitzes were you? I mean, they were just coming, weren't they? They were stacking it. There weren't so many run blitzes as much as they were kind of crowding the line of scrimmage there, stacking the box, if you will. We haven't gotten that far into the analysis and charting of it and all like that. But here's the thing that stuck out to me, at least early, man. Even with them kind of crowding the line of scrimmage. Where was the power running game that we thought we were going to see early?
I think most fans will say, where was the running game at all? 15 carries to 40 plus dropbacks.
Right, and I mean you knew it was going to be a tight game, or at least we thought it was going to be a tight game most of the game. Why weren't you doing some of the things that at least you and I kind of thought they would do early to kind of set the tone, right? They still should have been able to run on that front had they dedicated more to it. How many times did you see David DeCastro pull right to left? I mean, there was the one time on the faux face mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many times out of that? I think we saw Ramon pull the other way one time. Yeah. Was that it? Was it just two power runs?
I'd have to look, but those are the only two that are coming to mind. Again, they ran the ball 15 times. We thought the blueprint, and I thought it was obvious, to beat the Bills was to run the ball because they had the second best pass defense in football and they had the 21st ranked run defense. And so why didn't run the football more in a close game? I don't quite understand. I mean, there were some RPOs and they were in some third and longs, and so that's going to skew the numbers as long as you're trying to pass it late, but probably still a little too unbalanced for my liking. And Connor ran the ball effectively. Connor looked really good. I was happy with his performance back. I understand they want to manage a snap count and you can't give him 20 carries in that game. I would have liked to see a couple more carries than 8, though, especially with how well he was running it.
And how many RPOs did you count?
A couple. I don't know exactly. I can live with them not running some of these RPOs because I think Hodges just makes some bad decisions, honestly, on some of these. But, yeah, they could have run the ball more and in some circumstances run the ball more effectively.
Most definitely. Look at this. If you look at the way the Bills have been, especially against. I wrote about this earlier in the week about success rates against running backs, and even throwing the yards per carry out. And what side they should run to and all like that. They just they did it early, first couple of carries, and then they just seemingly got away. Was it a case of too many the age old saying, too many Chiefs, not enough Indians? I guess just too many Indians in this case. Were they just trying too hard to get so many running backs in and out of the game that none of them. I mean, look, if Connor was healthy enough to play, he should have played. Well,
I understand being careful with his snap count in his first game back, especially.
Yeah, he comes out blazes right from the shoot, and then it seems like Benny Snell might be a kind of guy that needs to get kind of the stronger he gets, the more he gets into the game as well too. And then you're getting Samuels, some stuff in there. Then you're trying to mix in some Wildcat, and they never had any really consistent, dedicated footing to the running game in there. Mm-hmm. And I thought the team that ran the football better in this game, and obviously the team that didn't turn the football over was going to be the team that won. And Buffalo stayed true to what they do, and that with their running game, and they ran the ball consistently better throughout the game, and that allowed them to, of course, run the football late. I mean, they looked offensively like they look offensively.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. They played to their identity. The Steelers' identity is supposed to be run the ball effectively, don't turn the football over. They really didn't do either of those things, especially in terms of the volume of running the ball, despite the game being close really throughout the entire night. So that was disappointing. And then you go back to, the most egregious decision when it comes to run decisions. It was at the end of the first half with that Wildcat play, which I have no idea what they're trying to do there. You got James Conner and Deontay Johnson trying to run the mesh. Conner hasn't run Wildcat in weeks. Deontay Johnson hasn't run it at all this season. You have 5 running backs active. I mean, that's a classic case of overthinking it, being cute, and getting burned for it.
Yeah, and that goes back to setting the inactive list sometimes too. I think that's why do you need all those kind of moving parts? I think, and why do you have a look? I mean, if it works and you get 7 yards on it, are we even kind of talking about it as much? It did stick out that you have a running back there in James Conner, a guy that's missed the last 3 games, a guy that's missed 5 games in total, right? Back there running the Wildcat, and look, I don't know how many times they practice that in practice, but it's probably not much, Why in that situation in the red zone are you putting the ball in the hand of a guy that's just not used to handling the ball like that, and then you throw in on top of it a low snap, which he's not used to, that's rushing your timing on everything as well too. You got a guy in Deontay Johnson that hasn't been the most ball secure guy overall in general, whether it be punt returns or just running with the football in his hands. On top of it, to me, you're just asking it's a play call where you're asking for too much, for the possibility of too much negative come out of it, and it did. That thing just popped out. It became a hot potato, so to speak. There. Yeah. So if you definitely want to circle one, scratch your head play call, design, whatever, it's that.
Yeah, you had your running back playing quarterback, and you had your wide receiver playing running back when you had 5 running backs active. I mean, use them. That situation took points off the board. Just bad process.
Brutal. I mean, you can't. We've talked to him, and that came off of a turnover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how many times have we talked about, well, boy, when this offense gets to short field, gets the turnover, you're going to go into games anyway wondering, man, are we going to get a turnover this game? Are we going to get a turnover this game? you get one, and then you get a gift face mask penalty after that. So then you're really in plus territory at that point, and then you take the football out of your quarterback's hands and put it in the hands of a running back trying to play quarterback there. So
Did the Steelers offense have any successful plays on that drive after the Nelson pick? But they had the face mask. Was there anything else on that drive?
I mean, I don't think so, right?
The sequence there? I don't think so, but because I'm just curious there if they just immediately just gave the football away essentially. Or did they have any sort of successful plays on that drive?
Hold on here.
But with the sequence on that, I know there was the face mask, which was a terrible call, not even close. Don't know what the ref saw in that play, and I don't remember if there were other plays in between prior to the fumble.
No, you went Kareth White left end for no gain, and that was the power run. That was DeCastro pulling right to left. They get the faux face mask, if you will. I think that was that one. And then then your next play is the Wildcat fumble.
Yep. So essentially, you just gave the football right back without your offense doing literally anything.
Right. Not even giving you at least you ran a power to the left. But that's definitely one to circle right there. And as bad as the offense played, and as bad as things kind of really went not in the Steelers' favor in the first half, I mean, you got to feel like. In fact, I think I put it on the Twitter machine. A huge positive coming out of that first half is it was only 7-3. I mean, it's definitely a reset moment where you figure, okay, let's go and make a few changes here. Let's get back on course. We can still very much win this game the way our defense is playing. But you get into the second half, you get much of this, much more of the same thing, and then of course you get into an end of the game situation where you had to start throwing the football every down.
Mm-hmm. Well, it just came down to that really 6-point swing that I talked about. Had you hypothetically, I know we're playing hypotheticals here, but had you just gotten even a field goal on that end of half drive, you'd have made it 7-6. You would have had a chance to double dip, but your team's actually done a nice job of being able to do that, score late in the half, get the ball back at the second half, and go down the field and score again, which to their credit they did. That was a James Conner 11-yard touchdown. And if you had not avoided the second Trey White interception that led to a field goal, that's a 6-point swing. So you're making it a 14-13 game mathematically, and the Steelers probably have the ball in field position for a field goal again at some point in that game to win it. So it's a whole different complexion, even if you'll still have only 3 turnovers, which you hate to have. If you eliminate those 2 direct scoring situations, one where the Steelers defense had no choice but to allow points, that field goal off the White pick, and then the fumble by Deontay Johnson took points off your own board. That's massive. So you could have won this game with even 3 turnovers, but 5 and essentially 6 with a Barry punt, there's no chance.
No, none.
So let's go to Duck, though, unless you have something else you want to add with the run game, because obviously that's going to be the hot topic. A terrible game. Too many guys had their worst games of the season against Buffalo, and Duck Hodges was certainly one of them. Let me ask you the point-blank question I'm sure you're getting a lot of people asking you about. I've gotten people asking you about who's your starting quarterback against the Jets.
Just same as you went through the problems with Mason. I don't think you just yank him right here, but he's your guy right now.
Yep.
Now, do you kind of go into this next? I mean, you're in a must-win situation now. Another, do you give him the first half? The way you did, with Mason in that game against Cincinnati, and hope he can kind of. In other words, do you have to have the hook handy? Yeah, I think you got to do whatever you got to do to win the game. Mike Tomlin says all the time, got to get out of the. We did what we had to do to get out of the stadium with a win. I think that's what you have to do in this next 2 games. However, no, I think you go into this week just like you went into last week, and that's expecting Hodges to be your starter. I don't think you just. you just can't flip back and forth, and that can't be good,
No, it's not. No, I'm with you. I'm not playing this revolving door of every quarterback looking over their shoulder once they throw an incomplete pass. I know it was a bad game from Hodges, but Rudolph had plenty of bad games and still got chances to redeem himself. I think the message for Tomlin shown consistently is you can get a chance to correct your mistakes. Mason Rudolph did. Even someone like Dante Moncrief early in the year got a chance to correct his mistakes, and certainly Hodges has earned that chance as well. So no doubt in my mind, I'm Tomlin Tuesday. First thing I say, I'm announcing the Ducks my quarterback. There's no question about it. We're going to follow him. The guy's proven he can play. Again, tough game last night, but the Bills are a good defense. The O-line did not do him any favors. No question about it. Duck Hodges is my starter in Week 16.
Yeah, I would have, to be honest with you, instead of Tomlin trying to play, look, I ain't playing that game every week. I would just come out and see, of course he's my starter, and then say, I'm not playing that game every week.
Yeah.
Now all the talk there, there's going to be a minor distraction, even though probably Devlin's already been told he's going to start and all. There's going to be kind of a minor, well, what do you think? Should they switch back to Rudolph? Just peppered with questions all week that kind of unnecessary. And I think Tomlin could have kind of nipped that in the bud. Said, look, of course he's our quarterback. I'm not answering this question every week. And then go into the guys. I'm not answering this question every week, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, make an announcement Tuesday, I presume, regardless of the direction he goes in, because you can't have these quarterbacks competing during the week and splitting reps. I mean, you're just going to have no one be put in a position to succeed there.
And no Paxton Lynch should not get a try.
It shouldn't even be anywhere in the realm of conversation. But to Hodges himself, though, it was terrible. The ball placement was bad. The decision-making was slow. His pocket presence still wasn't good enough. Again, the line did him no favors. We'll talk about them and criticize them in a moment. But by far, Hodges' worst game of the year and threw 4 picks. A lot on his plate. When you're throwing 38 times against the Bills' second-ranked pass defense, what do you expect to happen? But, I mean, he was bad. Just plain and simple, he was bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Throwing not a good base sometimes, right? Throwing off of and not stepping into his throws, not trying to do it mostly all arm a few times, and just not great overall. Now look, the first one, you're trying to stick your you're chumming up the water there, trying to throw to White's direction early, okay? You got what you kind of asked for in that one on the first one down the sideline there. Everything else though, I mean that out. How many times do we see him try to throw that out? And he does it. You can't be off on that, especially when you got a good corner in White, sitting on that, and he was. If that ball's off the mark and to the inside, he's picking it, and he did.
Yeah, even on the throw last week to Deontay Johnson against the Cardinals, which was a really good read, that ball was too far inside, and corner didn't make the play. Johnson made the catch, and we all kind of moved on. But I said that was poor ball placement, and when you face a good corner like Trey White, they're going to make you pay for poor ball placement. And again, an out route too far inside to Deontay Johnson and easily picked. I don't know why they threw at Trey White as much as they did. I said don't throw at him, and what did they do? They threw at him a lot, and they got burned because of it.
I think you can, but in certain situations, it's got to be a cover one type situation, and you better throw more to the outside. In other words, don't give him the opportunity to make the play on it. You can't just completely not throw at him. But yeah, that out right there, it just looked like he was kind of sitting on it anyway. And the ball probably could have been out a little bit quicker, yada, yada. And, of course, when you throw that thing back to the inside like that, you're asking for it. And, I mean, the guy, one of the better corners in the league right now, better young corners in the league, got you for a couple interceptions there.
I think he's your interception leader now with the 2 interceptions. He's got 6 this season, so he's either tied for the lead or has the lead. Yeah, okay, maybe I get you can't not throw at him at all the entire game, but let's not throw far hash out routes to Trey White's side. I think that's a pretty good game plan.
And there was there was a couple of other there were a couple of other throws that he had that I thought, man, just not throwing off of a good base and all. One over there to the left side, I think on a on a third down blitz. Was it over to the net over there on the side, to the left side? Anyway, there were a couple times where I was kind of holding my breath, and then one other one when they went after him and he kind of lobbed it up down the left sideline, and luckily that thing fell incomplete as well.
There was the one in the first half. I don't remember exactly when in the first half, but it was a slant flat combo that was open and read well by Duck to Deontay Johnson, but just missed him too far in front and should have been picked by whoever the corner was there. And so that was kind of an early indication he just wasn't having his night against Buffalo. But yeah, 38 attempts. That is a record for a Steelers rookie in pass attempts for a game. That breaks Bobby Brister's record of 33 back in '86. And again, to do this against this good of a defense. I mean, Duck didn't play well, but you're asking for trouble when you're dropping back 40 times against the Bills' pass rush and secondary.
Absolutely. We said it. You got to run good early so you can run better late. And you get into the end. The last thing you want him doing is throwing the ball 30 to 40 times.
Yeah. To the O-line, though, again, they did him no favors. I thought it was their worst game of the year from a protection standpoint, from just a structure standpoint. Too many free rushers, running backs, tight ends, certainly the O-line themselves just seemed confused. Just seemed like Buffalo constantly had them on their toes with different blitzes. Again, Hodges saying they weren't expecting them to blitz as much as they did. Pass protection just overall was abysmal, and the worst I've seen it this season.
Yeah, they were sending, especially when they were sending numbers. It seemed like too many times they were getting through and rushing the throw.
Yeah, I mean, to lose like San Francisco, they lost some of their individual matchups, and that's going to happen against good players. But in this situation, they were just too many free rushers, too many linemen making mental mistakes. I think the clearest example of that was in the second half, I believe, Matt Filer trying to take Micah Hyde the safety to leave James Conner the DN, Trent Murphy for some reason. I mean, there's no reason to do that. Filer's got to stay on his guy. Conner had the right idea, and Filer screwed it up. So there were just mental mistakes, free rushers, just no good answers for all the bluff pressures and all the DB blitzes that Buffalo had, and the Steelers were on their toes all night long.
Yeah, and it didn't help being in third and long situations a lot either, right? Which facilitate trying to hold the ball a little bit, and it facilitates asking for teams to send numbers out at you anyway, because they want you to get the ball out. I haven't looked at how many. I'll have to drill down here real quick to see how many third and long situations the Steelers had there. But
well, to start the game, I think Daniel had posted what it was. I'm just going to go through the box score here. They were 3rd and 8 to start the game, which actually did complete. They were 3rd and 15. It led to the first Trey White pick. On the next drive, they were 3rd and 10. On the drive after that, they were 3rd and 13. You kind of get the idea, 3rd and 10 on the next drive. And that was the whole first half. So, I mean, all of those were 3rd and 8 plus. The 5 or so I just rattled off. So, yeah, that's a great point. You're going to be in 3rd and long against this defense. They're going to come after you.
The second half, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 7. So how many times 3rd and, let's say, 7 or more, right? Let's see here.
That's 75% of the time.
It's called too many.
Yeah, it's called far too many.
1,
so again,
2,
the
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Yeah. That's.
And how many total third downs? There were 13. So 10 of your 13 were 3rd and 7 plus.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 13. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, good luck again against the number 2 pass defense in football. Not surprised you turned the football over and you struggled as much as you did.
Yeah. I mean, you get behind. Behind. We talk about behind the chains. And that's not a quarterback or rest of them. You're without Juju and all. Look, I thought he got away with one a little bit early too, though. The one to Deontay Johnson that was originally ruled out of bounds. They kind of got away with one there, I thought.
Well, there were a lot of receivers just in the same spot. I think that was kind of an extended play scramble drill, so that I guess is more prone to happening. But receivers seem to be not on the same page either.
Right, and the other thing that I think that's clear and obvious at this point when it comes to Devlin Hodges is from the let's even go 9 yards. 9 yards and further down the field, he's just got no want to throw the football between the numbers.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question is who's getting open between the numbers. You don't have a slot receiver in Juju. Your tight ends aren't going to make plays middle of the field. Those are your top two guys who are going to make plays between the numbers, and you don't have them. So I don't know if that's just guys not being there to step up. I imagine if you had Vance playing well and healthy, and you had Juju, the chart would look a little different.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got now what 4 starts, and
Well, I mean, you haven't had Juju or really tight end play for most of those starts for Duck.
yeah, but there's still other opportunities. There's other opportunities for him to throw the ball. Look, I'm not saying throw the ball 20 times in those areas because no quarterback does that. I mean, if you go through the quarterback charts around the league and look, I mean, but still, there's going to be certain instances during the game where you have to hit in those areas. And I'm more forgiving with a younger quarterback at the 15-yard mark and on. And by between the numbers, I'm kind of talking about by where the edge of the numbers start in the middle, from the area from where the numbers start to where the numbers, start on the other side of the field. I mean, that's a pretty good, obvious difference. So I'm not talking about, a small section of the field there,
Mm-hmm. I just haven't seen a whole lot open. I think this offense is constructed to win on the outside, to win vertically. When you have Deontay Johnson and especially James Washington, you're throwing outside kind of go.
Well, defenses are starting to pick up on that too.
Yeah, no, I get that. I would just have to see. I just know that if Juju was healthy and hopefully he can get back against the Jets, and if you had better tight end play, I think you would see more throws to the middle of the field. But point taken. I mean, they're not completing those, and you're right. The defenses are going to start keying in and trying to force Hodges to go middle of the field.
If they're going to start cheating, more to the outside there until he starts, forcing them to respect that a little bit there. So, I mean, like I said, a little bit more forgiving at the 15-yard mark, down the field. But I mean, you can back that thing on up to probably even 8 yards past the line of scrimmage, and that box is mighty empty as far as pass attempts that have been, in that square right there. So, we'll see if he can start attacking that area of the field in the final couple of games here.
But yeah, the offense was just a mess. You're turning the ball over 5, essentially 6 times. You're not good on third down. You weren't particularly strong in the red zone. And your offensive line just was. I was really. What were you? I mean, there was a lot of options here. What were you most disappointed by offensively Sunday? For me, it was the offensive line play in pass pro.
Yeah, you just went to. Just the inability to not run the football. I thought overall this was. Look, I mean, I talk about adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat all the time. This is a team that's right there with the Steelers that entered this game, tied with the Steelers, with a 4.8 number there. This is a good pass defense. We knew this coming into it. So what are you doing? You're swimming with the sharks, if you will. You're throwing that many times. I mean, you're asking to not have success with a young quarterback when you do that. So I think the game plan should have been, as long as this thing is close as it was, to run. Yep. Obviously, if you get in a 1st and 10 situation and you get 1 yard or 2 yards, I mean, I scream all the time, don't run on 2nd and long, kind of thing. But I mean, there were instances, or a few at least, where they got a little bit of yardage on 1st down. I would have liked to seen a few. I know you didn't, but I would have liked to seen a few more RPOs in there. Try to get the ball more high successful, lower risk kind of situations there to try to read it, to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers there, and they just didn't do it. You get in a 3rd and long situation, they come after you, and he either threw it away or threw it to the other team.
Yeah, it sums it up well. I'm with you. I try not to get into run pass balance stuff too often, because all I care about is how you win the game. But with the way this offense is constructed and the opponent you were facing and how close this game was through the entire game, honestly, I mean, I'm not sure why the disparity was so unbalanced, why they passed so much and ran so little.
I don't have my success rates down yet as far as what they had on 1st and 10, but you go back to You go back to what I wrote about earlier in the year. They were horrible on 1st and 10 success rates, and when you do that, you're really setting yourself up to, either you're running on 2nd and long, which we all grit our teeth at, or you're trying to throw, down the field to get a good chunk of that back. Let's see, 1st and 10. Boy, they had a lot of 1st and 10s in this game. Let's see, how many times did they? Look, they went. They got 15 yards right out of the chute there, but then they went 2-0-2. Then they hit on a 34-yard deep pass. I'll have to break down the success rates here overall, but very inconsistent there, and they just never had their footing in this. And then you once again you go back to off the turnover there and giving away points back right away. You just can't do that.
No, you can't. It was very similar to the Browns game in the last loss. And again, you turn the football over 4+ times. There's not a whole lot your defense can do. But speaking of the defense, overall,
how many direct snaps did? How many Wildcat? Hold on a minute here. How many?
Maybe 4. I don't know the exact number. 4-ish, 4 to 5.
Yeah, everybody's talking this morning. Well, they just ran way too much Wildcat. Well,
I didn't mind it except for the obvious one of the end of half, fumble with Connor and Deontay Johnson. It just putting two guys in situations that haven't been in before in that crucial of an area and that crucial point of the game at the end of the half was just asking for trouble.
I've got 3. Does that sound right?
Does that include the Connor one?
Yeah, okay. That's well, here's the other thing too. How you're running the first one they ran was a direct snap to Connor with the illegal motion in there.
Right. Yeah.
Why do you not know that that's not going to be a penalty?
Because Connor hasn't repped it. Connor's got to wait to snap the football, and he's been out, so you're putting him in a situation he hasn't been in a while. Just seems like all that process. Because if Hodges gets set, then you're fine. But Hodges was still in motion and still motioning out when Connor snapped the football. Which again, you're putting those guys in bad situations.
Exactly.
Two direct bad plays because of the situations you're putting your players in.
And that one negated a 7-yard run.
Mm-hmm. And a first down run too, right?
That was a 2nd and 10 play.
Oh, okay.
On the one with the on the one with the illegal motion there, and then let's see, the second one was a direct snap to Samuels that went nowhere. That was a loss of 3 yards, and then you had zero good happen on those 3, and I say those 3 because that's the way they're dictated in the play-by-play. Was there another one that we're missing here? Did they do any more direct snap Wildcats after that fumble, or did they say the hell with that?
I hope to God they scrapped it, but I don't remember for sure if they did it one more time or not. We'll have to look.
Samuels is a guy that does that, so that's more used to doing it. So, yeah, there is an error, quite a bit of error in the process and the theory behind it, and it goes back to what we said at the start of the show. You got a guy in there that's missed 3 games, 5 total, probably wasn't very, even though he's listed as a full practice participant, it probably wasn't a full. You get what I'm saying? Probably wasn't a full practice participant, even though he was. But regardless, a guy that's just not used to handling that. Then on top of it, you're mixing in a wide receiver there that's had a few ball security issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not opposed to the idea of Wildcat in general, but with the particulars how they did it, I thought it was terrible.
Right.
But anyway, to go to the defense, which played well, which again is the same story there. They got a little bit of, I think the pressure could have been better, but they got some of it. Obviously took away the football twice. They're up to 35 takeaways on the season. Then you give up 17 points total in a night where your offense effectively turned the ball over 6 times. What more can you ask for? But again, when the offense turns the ball over that much, your defense doesn't have a whole lot of a chance.
Exactly, and I know a lot of people, and look, we have plenty of time to dissect the final touchdown and all like that, and playing zone in that situation. Sometimes the other team's going to win in those situations. Could Edmonds have look? You only had one guy and a running back on that side, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know you have to be aware, and it was a 3-by-1 look, aware if cross was coming back to you, because that's pretty common. But yeah, the one critique of the defense is they were playing soft zone, a lot of cover two in third and long situations where they don't need to play soft zone coverage,
Right.
including on that touchdown.
And they let up they gave up another third and long that they probably shouldn't have because of playing zone, I think.
So John Brown, the 3rd and 10 plus.
Right. Just
That was rough.
force them to make a play.
Yeah, that was a 3rd and 10 in the third quarter. Now T.J. Watt forced a fumble at the very next play, so it didn't cost you. But yeah, the soft zones, and I know why they're playing spot drop zone coverage because Allen's a threat to run, and you usually play zone coverage against more mobile quarterbacks. You have eyes on the football, so if he takes off, you can take care of it. If you're playing man, you're not seeing the football. But in those moments, Allen has no problem beating you with his arm, and I think Edmonds needs to make a better play. There's got to at least make that one competitive, but. Yeah, to play soft zone spot drop coverage in today's NFL, you're not going to win that often.
Right, and I mean, that corner was wide open. On that corner out to a guy that they don't throw to a lot. You're throwing away from numbers in that instance. There, it just becomes if you can't get home, you're probably going to get beat.
Yeah. So, but overall, I mean, it's hard to be too mad about the defense. T.J. Watt again showing why he's defensive MVP frontrunner, I would say, or at least a top 3 candidate. Stephen Elsie getting his pick. Cam Hayward was just a grown man type of game. I mean, you can't be
Tyson
too mad.
Lulu, I thought played another good game. That guy's having a good season.
He finally punched one out. I've been saying all year he's going to punch one of these out, and he finally did. It was unfortunately recovered by Buffalo, so it didn't end well for Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean the run defense was decent. I mean Singletary got a couple carries. I mean he's an early elusive back. I know you praised him heavily during that game, and rightfully so. But what I would go back to is what I said on Friday was what J name receiver is going to make the big plays. And Washington did make a couple of big plays. I should have mentioned him with the offense he played. Well, I was happy with his performance. But John Brown made the last big play, and that's what the difference in the game was.
And which one? I'm trying to.
There was a 40-yard completion over
yeah.
against Steven Nelson, I think it was.
They seem to be going after Nelson in that game a little bit as well, too, so.
I think they were just going after John Brown. I mean, he's one of their top. I'm not entirely sure, but based on the box score, Cole Beasley only had 1 catch, and so I'm pretty sure the Steelers had a very Cleveland Browns, Jarvis Landry game plan of taking away Cole Beasley, especially on 3rd down, and that let John Brown be the guy to step up and make big plays. But he's been their best receiver all year long, so I don't know if they were going over after Nelson as much as they were just going after their top receiver in John Brown.
Let's see. They how many putos did they have? Technically that bad punt wasn't a turnover, but sure did feel like it at the time. They had the touchdown off of that. They had the field goal off of an interception, and that was it. So I mean, I don't know if you want to
10.
Yeah.
Well, it's 10 of their 17. I mean, that's more than half. Again, the defense is putting some of the bad spots by the offense. That's why they can't turn the football over as much as they did. But, again, my criticism was just probably not enough consistent pressure. Only 1 sack in Allen was disappointing. Allen's been sacked 10 times the prior 2 weeks before last night's game. And then some of the soft spot drop zone coverage on 3rd down, it's going to kill you.
There's just so much yet we haven't seen yet, because of time limitations here and not having it all 22, on top of it. So I'm sure we'll have plenty more to discuss when it comes to that. But the general feeling, I go back to the general feeling once again was I really expected them to run the ball more and better, throughout the game, and especially as it stayed close, and they just didn't, and they got themselves into a situation late in the game where they really had to start throwing every down. Oh, well, what about the you haven't even hit on the clock it.
Oh, yeah, I should have. The end of the game, the last play of the game, after Hodges took that sack, Tallman's saying clock it, I'm saying clock it. They run a play for some reason, some sort of miscommunication there. Fietner didn't get the signal to Hodges, and why they're trying to line guys up and run a play instead of just clocking the football and then resetting and taking time. Or not taking time, I guess, in the sense of not time off the clock, but taking time for your offense to get a huddle up and get a play sent in. I don't know. To me, that just sums up how poor and just kind of confused the offense was all night long.
Yeah, and a couple of those late throws of his too were just kind of hangers. They felt it felt like he was just hanging the ball up a lot.
Yeah, well, when he's throwing out of the
Right.
pocket, off his back foot and off with a good base. But yeah, I mean, how you don't clock it, and that's a situation a young quarterback hasn't been in before. Obviously, Hodges hasn't been in that exact situation before, to know when to spike the football. So, but Fichtner's got to tell him. I mean, because Tomlin, I assume, does not have a direct line in the Hodges helmet. Is that fair to assume?
He's telling I mean, you would think that he's telling Randy to tell him to
Right.
clock it.
Right. My assumption is that Fichtner can hear what Tomlin's saying, and then Fichtner's going to relay that to Duck. And so, to me, that's on Randy, because he is, first of all, Tomlin shouldn't have to tell Fichtner that ball needs to be clocked. I think everyone understands why that ball has to be clocked there. So
Right.
Fichtner immediately should be like, just spike it, and because you're better off resetting, huddling up, getting a play in sent with some time, and instead of trying Hodges to run the show on the fly, trying to get Washington lined up, you're losing valuable seconds. Even if that pass was incomplete, there was 6 seconds left. You get time for one more play, another Hail Mary heave in the end zone. It's probably not going to work. Just bad process, and that sums up the entire night for the offense. Just bad process.
Yeah, and then the pass protection too, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be fun or not fun to go
Yeah.
to go back through that once we get the end zone, kind of
Right.
the end zone view on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just look, gloom, despair, and agony. I mean, really, it was kind of the way it started with this, and the fact that they were in the game throughout it and had a chance to tie it up, I think speaks volumes of the defense. And yeah, I know a lot of people are going to get on that last touchdown and all like that, but I mean, it goes back to what we say all the time, and Keith Butler says all the time: 17 or 16 is that magic number. You should be expected to win a lot of games, even if you only average in 20 points a game. And I think we both knew that points were going to be a premium in this game. So why not? They got to figure out how to protect him even better than running a Wildcat.
Mm-hmm. What was your score prediction for this one?
What did I say? 17-16 the hard way.
Yeah. And so I had 2017. So we both knew it was going to be a low scoring game. Again, this was Cleveland 2.0 minus helmet swinging.
Basically,
the same story played out. I'm going to make a really bad joke here. This was Cleveland 2.0 electric Buffalo. That's my terrible movie joke.
The thing too, Cleveland didn't go after. I don't think Cleveland. I don't remember Cleveland going after Rudolph as much.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look. How many times was Rudolph sacked that game? 4 times. So Hodges was sacked 4 times yesterday. But the idea of just too many turnovers, your defense playing well, but just not being able to overcome all those turnovers in a primetime matchup, a quarterback that looked overwhelmed.
Do they have to do something maybe to occasionally get him out of the pocket sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, they did on the Connor touchdown. That was a rollout. That was a well-designed play. I'll give Fichtner credit there. So, I mean, I guess they have a little bit. But, I mean, Hodges just has to play better. His ball placement was bad. I mean, he took forever to get the ball out in some places. There were some, screen options with receivers standing there wide open, bottom of the screen. He's just not looking. I mean, it was by far, and it's obvious, but it's by far his worst performance of the year.
You know what? It looked like a fourth-string quarterback.
Yeah, it just looked like someone that wasn't prepared for what he was seeing. And I think in every game this year, he felt like he was confident. He knew what he was seeing, even if he was going to take some risks. He knew where his read was and where to go with the football. Last night, I think he was overwhelmed by what Buffalo was doing, and he basically admitted as much after the game, saying we did not expect them to run the game plan that they did, which is an indictment on the coaching staff for not having the quarterback ready.
Do you remember that next gen stats that came out? Was it last week or the week before, showing the pressure rates on Rudolph versus Hodges?
I didn't see it, no.
And how and how the pressure rates on Rudolph were so high, and people said, "Boy, it's quite a discrepancy in the numbers right there." It's because no team had really gotten after Hodges as of yet. Well, now people want us always ask us, Alex, to make a right. Well, is this guy going to be the quarterback of the future? You got to see these quarterbacks in so many different situations. And now we have seen Hodges under pressure, and he wasn't great at all.
Yeah. Most rookie quarterbacks under pressure don't succeed. I
Right.
mean, that's not surprising.
But Duck Mania maybe got out a little bit way out in front a little bit too much. But
Maybe, but I also want to make sure it doesn't get overcorrected because I don't want people to turn on Duck for one bad game against a good
but they
defense.
are. I mean, yeah, I'm
But why
sure
they are, yeah. But
we're
there's
not
always
we're not
been
caught. Look, you asked me right at the top. Do I make a quarterback change here? No, and that's the same reason. Look, you go back to that game against the Dolphins with Mason Rudolph. People calling for him to get benched there early on there. No, you let him kind of work through that, and he it wasn't pretty, but I mean he worked through it and kind of straightened things out a little bit. Made tiny bits of progress there up until really you get into that Cleveland game, and then just all fell apart on him right there. I mean, he definitely went backwards after having a good game. Who was it against the Rams?
Mhm.
There, and same situation here. You got to let this kid try to rebound from this, against the Jets. But at the same token, man, if he gets off to a rough start, I mean, are you against having the hook, a series into the second half against the Jets?
I mean, it would just depend on how things are going, and I think that's a thing that you just look at in game. I don't know if you want to go into a game saying, okay, if Hodges has this stat line, if the offense has this amount of points, we're gonna pull him after this. I don't get into those kind of things. I think you go in confident in your quarterback. You go in with a plan of how you're going to succeed, not how you're going to fail. But is it an option? I mean, sure, it could be an option. I just think it's very unlikely that I would make that decision unless things were just a disaster against the Jets.
One other thing on his second to last interception, the one that he threw over there, I think Micah Hyde got that one.
Mm-hmm.
You see who was it? Washington coming across. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Look, you're going to have to wait a little bit on that, I think, because for him to clear either that, or you're going to have to lead him well over towards into that other third of the field there, because Micah Hyde's still kind of middle of the field situation right there. He and I think Collinsworth kind of hit on this too. He's probably going to contest. Get there and kind of contest that as well too, and the way that kind of the rush had come, and the way Connor had to pick up that, I think it was Connor in pass pro on that one, had to kind of carry his guy over there. It would have made for a tough throw, I think, back toward to Washington, and would have probably hit. I just don't think it's as easy as hitting Washington on the over on that one.
Well, it would have been wide open, but if you hit it in the back corner of the pylon, you got a chance anyway. It was just it was a better throw than what Hodges ultimately did, which was that lane duck to Deion King.
And that's why I said you got to lead him over, into that other third.
Yeah, you got to throw it. You got to have good ball placement. I mean, it's not a layup throw, but it was open there. Now, I also don't understand why you're in 12 personnel on 4th and 7 with Jack Gentry. That seems less than ideal unless they were trying to protect it up. But I think those guys were in routes, and also why Deontay Johnson wasn't on the field after a timeout on 4th and 7. It feels like a good plan to get maybe one of your best receivers on the field.
Yeah, and even after what do they call a timeout?
Yeah, they called the timeout, and then they bring the same personnel out there.
Yeah, they still ran the two tight ends out there again. And, I mean,
let's
face it.
Did anyone block on that play? Did Gentry stay in the block?
Yeah, I had to go back and look at that.
Yeah. I guess maybe they were just trying to protect it up. I mean, I guess Washington kind of got open, so maybe in that sense it worked. But, yeah, 12 personnel, 4th and 7, don't have Deontay Johnson in the field. Again, process. Process was bad.
Offense definitely behind that loss.
Yeah, and special teams, Jordan Berry, worst game of the year. He's had a really good season prior to Sunday, but a 22-yard punt and then a 39-yard, basically another kind of mini shank in that game. Just bad from Berry.
All right, where else? What else do we have? Didn't we? Go ahead.
I was going to talk about just kind of overall playoff scenarios because we are entering Week 16, and that's really important. Again, Steelers still to succeed. Playoffs. If the playoffs started today, Pittsburgh would be in because Tennessee lost to Houston, so they are in control of their own destiny. If they win the next two against the Jets and the Ravens, again, both winnable games, they will make the playoffs as the 6th seed. If they don't, then things get interesting. I know we had a conversation before the show. If Pittsburgh and Tennessee are both 9-7. The Steelers may not make the playoffs. That gets into tiebreakers about conference record and things like that. I don't know exactly what the scenario is there, but it is possible that if the Steelers win only one of their next two and Tennessee were to win one of their next two as well, even though Pittsburgh's ahead of them right now, that may change if they're both 9-7, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it gets so damn confusing.
But what would happen there is they would have identical conference record. The Steelers have tiebreak over Tennessee right now because they have a better conference record by a game. But if the Steelers lose one of their next two and Tennessee were to win, I guess they would have to win their finale because that's an AFC game. They got the Saints this week. There's a chance. But the bottom line is to know if the Steelers win out, they're in. If they don't, then things get interesting.
There are scenarios for them to get in is there any scenario? I guess there is a scenario either way. If they win against the Jets, now I don't think none of this obviously none of this is built in. What I'm looking at here doesn't have any ties built in, and obviously you can't.
Yeah, throw ties into this.
Yeah, that makes it even harder there. I don't think there's any scenario where the Steelers win their next two and they don't get in.
Correct. If they win out, they are in 100% as a 6th seed. If not, then it's going to depend on what Tennessee does and some tiebreakers that I haven't. Well, maybe we'll break down more about that on Wednesday's show because I don't want to hem and haw around it right now. But if they don't obviously win out, then there's a chance they miss.
Yeah, there are who do you root for in the Houston Tampa Bay game, which I think is Saturday, right?
Well, they're playing Tampa.
I mean, Houston, Tampa, don't they?
Oh, okay. I don't know. My first thought was Houston root for Tampa Bay, but I guess you kind of want Houston just to secure the division, right? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, but bottom line is the Titans play the Saints, right? So you want to be Saints fans, and then obviously you want to be Steelers fans. And oh, by the way, that Week 17 game against Baltimore is going to matter now. They throw the meaningless game for both teams out the window.
Right. They had an opportunity if they would have won last night. And then beat the Jets, and then had maybe Tennessee lose to New Orleans. Then I think there was an opportunity there to have the 5th seed locked up and not mean anything. But obviously that's out the window right now. So I mean you want obviously Baltimore to beat Cleveland too. So Baltimore has less to play for. Either that or they're going to need New England to lose. Baltimore can lose to Cleveland and still lock up number 1 seed if New England loses, and I think if Kansas City loses or ties or something along those lines. That it just makes your head hurt anyway. But thinking about all that, just win your next 2 games and you're in the story.
I'm looking at the standings right now. Let's say that Pittsburgh just hypothetically beats the Jets, they lose to the Ravens, and Tennessee beats the how would this go? Even if Tennessee loses to the Saints but beats whoever they play Week 17, which is an AFC South opponent, they're both going to be.
They play the Texans to close things out. Tennessee.
Oh, do they? Okay. Oh, so I wonder how the division gets thrown into that. But let's assume that Houston has already locked up the division at that point, and Tennessee beats them. So now the Steelers and Titans are both 9-7, each with 7-5 conference records, and I don't know who has tiebreaker at that point. Again, the Steelers have a 6-4 conference record right now. The Titans at 6-5, but because Tennessee plays an NFC team against the Saints in Week 16, the Steelers have 2 conference games still to play. So it's possible that they ended up getting knotted up in conference record, and then it becomes a strength of schedule. I don't know what the next tiebreaker even is at that point, but that's a scenario where even though Pittsburgh's ahead with an identical record right now, that could change. If they're both 9-7,
they better be able to beat the Jets. So
but even if they beat the Jets and lose to Baltimore, you're still gonna be 9-7 with a 7-5 conference record. You will be in that scenario, and at that point, it gets really squirrely.
All right. What else do we have?
Just the last one for playoff is Tennessee's basically the only team to worry about. The Colts are 6-7, Browns are 6-8, Raiders are 6-8. Those teams aren't going to make it, so it's really just a 2-horse race for the 6th seed between Pittsburgh and Tennessee.
All right, I suppose we should get into some emails, right?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's see here. Jeff Dudash writes in, David Knox, I may have had too much to drink, so correct me if I'm wrong, but on the critical 4th and 7 with 2 minutes remaining, I believe the Steelers had a package on the field that included Jalen Samuels, Nick Vannett, and Zach Gentry. Duck Hodges isn't a good quarterback, but can any quarterback be successful with that group? And I think we just kind of hit on that. It must have been Here's the thing. I still got a lot to go through on this game. I know you do as well too. But you would think that you'd have one tight end and heck, even all your tight ends out there. Just try to block that thing up better. I mean, not all your wide receivers out there.
Yeah, you probably want to be in 11 personnel on 4th and 7, but they weren't.
Right, and even after the timeout,
Mm-hmm. I don't know what the thought process was there, unless it was to have him stay in and block and help out in pass, bro.
All right, let's see here. Adam Bendis writes in, "Hi, David Alex. Was curious to get your opinion on whether points scored against the defense should be an adjusted stat based on the down and distance to start, with a caveat on end of half or game context. What motivates this for me is from the game last night. After a near pick six, the Bills' offense started essentially in the red zone. In my opinion, the 3 points scored by the Bills should not be counted against the Steelers' defense because the Bills should aim to score at least 3 points 100% of the time. In fact, I could argue an aggressive example of adjustment could mean if the Bills via turnover or something don't score, the Steelers defense has essentially stolen points from the Bills. With the second example, if the Bills were to start at the Steelers 1 yard line, I could argue closer to 7 points should be expected than the 3 points. Logical companion stat could be adjusting down points scored by the Adam. Look, I mean, obviously you can get into splitting hairs, on some of this stuff too, and then of course you got the expected points, aspect that's already in place and all like that. I'm not overly sure which way you're going with this, just other than he's got it titled here, adjusted points for/against.
Yeah, it's a little too messy. I get what you're saying. Obviously, Buffalo at the 18-yard line. I mean, you're expected to get some amount of points there. Why are you charging that to the defense? But I don't like playing that game. The only thing I would adjust for is if for a direct touchdown, so pick six, just special team scores, where your defense doesn't have a chance, but it's still reflected as in points allowed. I would probably have some sort of adjusted rating for that, which may be minor, but still there. I wouldn't adjust it for what you're talking about.
Jordan Rushlander writes in, 42 plays and 15 rushes with 5 running backs dressed, ... David Alex, I continue to be perplexed by the offensive play calling, as well as the in-game personnel rotations in a game that was never more than one score, was completely abandoned run. Also, Connor was clearly the most dynamic back, but they still insist on rotating backs in the middle of the drives for no apparent reason, even on the critical fourth quarter drives. It's like they have a running back wheel that they spin before each play, and then the guy trots out on the field. Also, can we stop with the heavy formation with Johnny Holton as the lone wideout? How many times did we see that?
With Holton as the lone wideout?
Right.
Every time they went 13 personnel. I mean, 5 times maybe. But they've done that all year. I'm okay with that.
At least put in Johnson or Washington, so there's a possible threat to throw the ball. We might as well fast forward to 2nd and 9 and skip the play. Lastly, why is Kane in on the field on that critical 4th down play at the end of the game? Yep. We've already talked about that. Obviously, it was a terrible performance by the offense and Duck, but I feel the Steelers coaching staff is consistently misusing the personnel. This is critical. Week 15, our best players need to be on the field. Maximum snaps possible. If Connor is healthy enough to play, he needed to be out there unless he's gassed.
Yeah, I hear you on all that. With Holton, I get that, but Holton is a decent blocker. He's got the vertical threat. They like to rotate receivers out, let the other guys catch a breath. So I understand your point, but that's not new for them, and that's the least of my complaints about offensive personnel and play calling from Sunday night.
Let's see here. No victory Monday from Michael Hewlett. Good morning, Dave and Alex. So, yeah, Duck stunk it up last night, refused to throw into the middle of the field. We had 5 turnovers, can't do that, but one interception was basically a punt, which I'm fine with, and his last one was to tie the game, which I'm also okay with. What really hindered us was the Wildcat debacle inside the 2-minute mark in our red zone. I mean, well, at least we have 3 points out of there, which was huge. Wildcat's a nice change, but let's kick that to the curb to kind of get banged up last night, and question mark in running the ball. Only 14 times is concerning. Steelers get caught up in some reverse psychology by passing 2 times as much. Look, I mean, that obviously that Wildcat play with Connor, late in the first half was a huge turning point in the game, but that's not what lost you the game overall. But it was a huge part of the game.
Yeah, just the collection of all the turnovers. But again, I mean, that's a situation where points are directly coming off the board. That could, in a way, really change the outcome and outlook of that game. So it wasn't the direct reason, but anytime you take points off your own board, that's really going to hurt you.
How many times do they run on second and what do you want to look at? Second and what? 6 or longer?
I can look. I can try to look.
I got it right here. Hold on a minute.
Okay. I don't know. I also be curious on how many snaps in the second half Connor played. It didn't feel too terribly high. I felt like we saw a lot of, maybe that was in passing situations. They just already had the game plan of having Samuels in there more, or someone like that. But I'd be curious to know.
Oh, that's the Bills. I got it separated wrong. Crap.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they ran the second along early. I think, again, they only ran the ball 15 times, so the number can't be too terribly high because probably just not a lot of those situations where they called wrong plays, which, again, I think was an issue. I'm not one to talk about balance too often, but I didn't understand the disparity last night.
Let's see. Pittsburgh, second down. And let's go 7 or more here. They ran. I know this doesn't make good. Only twice.
Yeah, well, again, when you're in the ball 15 times.
Second and 10 twice.
What were the results on those?
One was the penalty. One was the illegal motion. And
I don't think the other one went
anywhere.
The
other was no gain. Right tackle Connor, no gain.
Yeah. What happened on that third down play? I assume that was in a punt.
I'll have to sort it.
Yeah, because I think that was a run pass sequence, which yeah. But again, they should have run the ball more. I don't know why they didn't. That's the bottom line.
Let's see here. Jonathan Mason writes in, Alex and Dave, Duck's lack of arm strength was really exposed last night. He didn't give Kane or Washington a chance on the ball in the end zone on both picks. Even the 2 downfield completions to Washington were badly underthrown that could have ended in TDs. Do y'all also think his pocket awareness has gotten worse? He was terrible handling the blitz last night as well. Thanks. Look, it wasn't a great game for him all around either.
Yeah, those things are accurate. His arm wasn't great. His placement was poor. His presence wasn't. I don't know if it gotten worse, but there was definitely some bad moments there. Some ball security issues within the pocket as well. Had a one fumble. He's fumbled it now 2 times the last 2 weeks. Both luckily recovered by Pittsburgh. Yeah, it was just bad.
Jeff Burke writes in, playoffs. Hello, Dave and Alex. The offense didn't play like a team bound for the playoffs. The game plan seemed flawed and too cutesy. It looked like a preseason game where not everyone was on the same page. I thought they would lean on the run game. Sans weird wildcat stuff. Instead, it was drop back and pass and challenge their best cornerback, and we all know how successful that was. 38 passing attempts to just what was the run pass balance up until the final, I don't know, 3 drives?
Well, I'm not sure why you putting it at 3 drives.
Well, our final 2 drives, because they were having to.
Yeah, because I don't know the third to last. It was still a close game with some time. Yeah, I don't know what the numbers were.
Well, how many times let's see here. Let's look. How many times they threw in these last couple of drives here? They 5. It looked like about what? A lot of them came in the last couple of drives there. What?
Yeah, they threw the ball on every play the last 3 drives. Now you could argue on that third to last drive. There was still 8 minutes left in the game. You probably didn't have to throw it every single time. So I mean, it did skew the numbers to a decent degree. It's probably 15 passes right there. But I still thought they could have run the ball more and more effectively earlier in the game.
Let's see. Go on here. 38. So the passing amount wasn't due to having to throw to come back from a large deficit. It was just what the game plan seemed to dictate. I'm really confused by this game. Had plenty of chances to win, but turning it over that many times, especially in scoring position, lost the game for us. The defense allowed 17. The offense couldn't get it going. Didn't feel we could do damage in the playoffs. Now I'm sure of that, and not confident we'll advance to the playoffs. What a weird year. Look, you still get in, and we've said a few times you're gonna have to win a lot of games by your defense holding the opposition to 17 points.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Look, you just got to right now. Just worry about trying to get in.
Rough math says before, not counting the last two drives the Pittsburgh had, they had 27 dropbacks and 15 runs. Is my rough math there.
He also forgot to mention, writes in, where's the Benny? Said in where's the beef voice. Benny Snow had 2 carries. He's the kind of runner made for games like the one played last night. He's the kind of guy who gets the tough yards. We needed that much more than we needed to pass it in the game. Look, I mean, we said it, Jeff. I thought going into this game, this is a game that you kind of run, and the team that ran the ball better was going to win it, and that's what happened. Bryce writes in, Bryce, you gotta shorten these emails, buddy. Kevin writes in, hey guys, I didn't get to watch the whole game. Any thoughts on what happened to our run game, which was expected to do well against the Buffalo defense? Is it simply a matter of them not fearing our passing game and teeing off? Well, I'll have to look at how much the box was stacked on some of these and all when we get to all 22. But it felt like there were other opportunities still to run.
Yep, I agree.
Cordell Carter writes in, question on Danny Smith. Hey guys, thanks for your coverage. Black and gold dedication, blah, blah, blah. Balanced view of the Steelers week in and week out. A few weeks ago, you guys talked about the coordinators who went through their strengths and weaknesses. You omitted Danny Smith from that discussion. Could you discuss Danny Smith and outline what you think his strengths and weaknesses are? Although the coverage units are solid, on the whole, the Steelers special teams have not been special for years. How much of a factor is coaching in that? With special teams looking a little bit better this year, not hard to do. Has Danny Smith done enough to keep his job in 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, that would take me having to really sit down and think about it and create a list. I think overall, to start, players play hard for him. They embrace and they enjoy playing for him. They're motivated by him, which are some of the basics of coaching, especially for special teams, and unglamorous job. His punt rush schemes are among the best in football. I think he is a good problem solver. I think he does do some little things to help throw teams off and to, be able to deal with things before they come up. Some of the punt schemes he's come up with. Weaknesses, I mean, I don't know where exactly to go. I mean, the kick return game's been bad for years now, so coming up with a coherent kick return scheme would probably be one of the biggest ones for me. But has he done enough to come back? I would say so. I'm obviously a little bit biased, but I think the turnaround of Boz, the coverage units being strong, Deontay Johnson with a punt return touchdown, that's enough to bring it back.
Daniel Devlin writes in, hey, Dave and Alex, I certainly hate to throw my Boilermaker brethren under the bus, but his play Huh?
Oh, Boilermaker and what ref?
Brethren, I don't know. Boilermaker brethren under the bus, but his play calling seemed out of whack, and anything else out of the Wildcat should result in Randy's immediate termination. This served a purpose, but have to move on. The plays continue the team behind the 8 ball. Also thought the delay a game on the second to the last series was on Randy. If he's in Duck's ear, he has to let him know to get going. Those trading Ben and Mason may want to pump the brakes. You think? Yeah, we're the people that want to let Ben Roethlisberger go now. Also, we tried. It's just not a lot. You got to give us time to analyze these guys, man. Guy wins 3 games throwing 17 times a game. You can't just dump Ben. Also, if the Steelers part ways with Big Al, do they have someone on the roster who can step in? I know you're high on him, but seems to have had a tough year. Thoughts? Big Al's not the reason why you're struggling on offense.
I mean, the whole offensive line played poorly. You could argue a core four could be your next left tackle, but I don't know if you really are confident that someone is ready to step up and take over. Villanueva is not going to go anywhere after this year, though. Yeah, Fietner was bad. I get into the Purdue reference now. Yeah, Fietner was bad. I wholeheartedly agree.
Also, my adjusted net attention span has gone up by 124 seconds while listening to your analytics portion of the show. I don't know if that means he likes it or he doesn't like it.
I think that was a compliment. That sounded.
He writes back in, the immediate termination comment was hyperbolic, but I didn't hear Coach Tom. But I did hear Coach Tomlin in his press conference saying they have been riding the Wildcat all year. It is past time to end the ride, he says. What else you got? Let's see. Mark Walters writes in, please discuss with deep dive statistics and your signature thorough observation-based analysis why, beyond Stephon Tuitt's absence, the Steelers' defense struggles against the run.
What did Buffalo have on the ground last night? I mean, they ran for about a $130 collectively on 38 carries. What is it? What is an average of that? That's 3.4 yards per carry. Yeah, it wasn't the best, but I mean, the Bills have a good run game. That's their identity, and they got a good back in Singletary. So I wasn't terribly mad about their run defense yesterday.
No, it was about as it's been all year to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, how many they had throw out the Josh Allen runs. I mean, how many of those were just flat out scrambles versus? I mean, I know that he had the design run on the touchdown. How many other design runs did he have?
Not many, but I mean, he averaged 4 yards a carry, so it's not like he had a great running performance. I mean, Singletary ran well, but he's a good back. He had the one nice run where he juked Steven Nelson out of his shoes and set up the Allen touchdown. But other than that, were there any runs that really killed you? I don't think so.
I mean, the 15-yard run, I think that was the one, right, where he got it
Sounds
down
right.
to the one.
Yeah.
Other than that, their running backs had 31 carries for looks like 102 yards.
Yeah, what is that? 102.
100 and
Yeah, that's 3.3 yards a carry. Yeah, I wasn't mad about the run defense yesterday.
and then we'll have to look at run success rates because obviously that I mean if it's 3rd and 1 you get 1 yard.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I haven't drilled down that far, so I have to look at run success rates, and I haven't even drilled down to see what the adjusted net yards per passing attempt was. But I mean, you hold the opposing quarterback to 13 damn completions on 25 attempts for 139 yards with a touchdown and interception. I'd say it's pretty good.
Yeah, defense was not a problem, obviously.
John Brown, 7 receptions and 99 yards, and the only other player to have more than 1 reception was Singletary. 2 catches, 2 yards.
Yep, Brown killed him, and then that doesn't even does that count the? No, that does count the 40-yarder at the end of the game. Yeah, that was the big one that killed you. Didn't do a good enough job against him.
Let's see what else we have here. I think that's pretty much got them all knocked out, Alex. Thank God.
Yeah, but hey, look, listen again. Steelers are in control of their own destiny. They win next week. They beat Baltimore. They're in this thing. Even if they were to lose, and Titans have a tough matchup with the Saints and the Texans to close the season out. Just lost to Houston yesterday, so still have a good chance to make it. I just want to keep that in perspective. As bad as we feel today.
Right. Were you surprised as much Buffalo fans made the trip and made it in?
No, I mean, Buffalo's got a great fan base, and the Bills Mafia is crazy, so kudos to them. It's obviously a relatively short trip to Pittsburgh. They did a really nice job of making that stadium loud, so I was not shocked by it.
All right, obviously you and I will get a little bit, better perspective on this game. Key stat too, that Buffalo was 6 of 14 on 3rd downs, and you'd like to see maybe the Steelers get off 1 or 2 extra more times there.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Steelers finally lose in their color rush.
Yep. All right, the All 22 will be out later on tonight, and by the time we get on Wednesday, hopefully we'll have a few more other things, Easter eggs to talk about there. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar on SteelersDepot.com for $25. You can have a full calendar's year's worth of access to the site without the ads on it, and that's been quite popular as well. So until Wednesday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.